What's up, guys? It's Dan from Coin Bureau Trading. Today, we're going to talk about the only indicator you need to watch this week and why the next 48 hours are going to be crazy for crypto, for stocks, and possibly for other markets as well. If this is the kind of content that you enjoy, then be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ping that notification bell. Before we get started, do keep in mind that nothing in this video is financial advice. It's just my personal analysis of the crypto market. Your analysis could be different, and if it is, that's awesome, because the more difference of opinion that we have, the better traders and the better investors we're all going to become. So first things first, guys, the indicator that you need to be watching this week is the US dollar as measured by the DXY, which is basically like the US dollar compared to a basket of currencies, primarily the euro and the yen. And as you guys can see, historically speaking, whenever the DXY would kind of get this medium-term downtrend, the first leg lower would correspond to a Bitcoin rally, then there would be a little bit of chop, and then there would be a second leg lower that would correspond to an altcoin season. We saw that in 2017, we saw that in 2020 and 2021, and basically since July here, well, since late June, I've been waiting for the DXY to break down here, which is precisely why I've been saying now for the last few months that there would be an altcoin season, and why I was so confident that there would be a top in Q3, and of course, this hasn't happened. I'll be doing a video addressing that, don't worry, but the key point being here is that I was basically watching the DXY as one of the main macro indicators, especially because it correlates a lot to global liquidity, and basically the DXY has been, on the brink of a breakdown now for almost 3 months, which is very frustrating, but it's not bearish because it's still technically on the brink of a breakdown. And of course, that begs the question, what is going to cause the DXY to finally break down, right? It has to be some kind of macro catalyst. Well, some of you guys might have heard that there's probably going to be a government shutdown this Wednesday, which is why I said at the start of the video that the next 48 hours are going to be crazy, not just for crypto, not just for stocks, but potentially for the whole global financial system, is because, of course, when there is this government shutdown, which is very rare, there's only been two in the last 20 years. One was in 2013, and another one was in late 2018 and early 2019. We'll be taking a look at those in just a second. But as you guys can imagine, when there is a government shutdown, what do you think happens to the US dollar? Obviously, it goes straight down. And as some of you will know, when the US dollar goes down, that basically means everything else goes up, especially risk assets like crypto, stocks, and what have you. So real quick here, guys, I'm actually going to go back here to 2013, and I'll switch it to the daily just so you can get a little bit of a better sense, because it is a little bit tricky to see here. We're on the weekly. So if we zoom in all the way back here, guys, to the first, and I would say like the most comparable kind of government shutdown, because we're in a similar period seasonally speaking, it's actually really fascinating. In 2013, when there was this government shutdown, initially it caused a rally in the DXY like for a few days, but then eventually, once the shutdown was over, it caused a massive drop. Like you can see that a huge drop in the DXY. And what's really fascinating is if we look at Bitcoin, now we're looking at Bitcoin here back in 2013, you can see that, and I do find this very fascinating, that there was this huge dump in Bitcoin, just completely unexplained. I was actually looking at stocks, like to see what stocks were doing. Stocks did not see this big breakdown when the government shutdown started. So this suggested that this was like some crypto specific factor. Maybe it was whale manipulation or whatever you want to call it. But I find it interesting that, there was this unexpected dump basically just around the time of the government shutdown. And it makes me wonder if that's what we saw last week, or if we're still going to see like that kind of surprise dump this week before we get a continuation higher here with Bitcoin, and of course with the rest of the stock market. The one really important thing to note here, guys, is that once the government shutdown was over, the reason why Bitcoin started rallying was not because the government shutdown was over. It's because the DXY started falling aggressively after the shutdown ended. And that's what makes things really fascinating, is that if we look at the 2018 to 2019 drop, let me see if I can find that here on the daily. So check this out. This is what the DXY did when there was a government shutdown in late 2018, early 2019. In this case, it was like a similar but slightly different, that as soon as the shutdown started, the DXY just completely collapsed. And then, of course, there was a little bit of a bounce and then a continuation lower in the DXY. Of course, it was a little bit different for Bitcoin because, of course, the whole crypto market was kind of like at the end of a bear market at that period. Fast forward here, guys, to 2019, if memory serves, what's really interesting is that the government shutdown happened to correspond, like, of course, afterwards, crypto kept crashing because it was in the bear market phase. But the government shutdown, leading into the government shutdown, crypto actually rallied. When the DXY fell, Bitcoin had like a nice rally basically from its bear market lows. But again, we're dealing with kind of different phases of the cycle. This is why I mentioned earlier in the video that the 2013 parallel, I think, makes a lot more sense. And I do find it fascinating that Bitcoin had kind of like this almost flash crash before powering higher. And again, Bitcoin only powered higher when that DXY started to fall. And the key takeaway being, of course, is that when we do get that government shutdown, which looks looks like it's very likely to happen this Wednesday, then there will probably be a big drop in the DXY. And what's crazy, guys, is if we zoom back out to the weekly here and we throw on the Bollinger Bands, which you guys know are my favorite indicator, you can see that the Bollinger Bands on the weekly for the US dollar are squeezing. And what this means is that there's about to be a big move either to the upside or to the downside. And if we do get a government shutdown, then obviously that squeeze is going to be to the downside, and we're finally going to get basically that drop in the DXY that I've been waiting for, from a macro perspective, that I've been waiting for to trigger the start of this altcoin season and blow off top, which again, that's happened in every single cycle, and I don't think that this time is different. And all I've been basically saying is for the last 3 months is, hey, it's going to break lower, it's going to break lower, and of course, every single time it would get a bounce, which is really frustrating, but again, it's not bearish. The DXY is still low, and of course, if the DXY was to see, for whatever reason, a squeeze higher, then of course, that would not bode well, let's say, for altcoins. I think Bitcoin could be okay in that environment. Stocks would probably be okay. It really depends. But typically when the DXY goes up, everything else goes down. So that's just something to keep in mind. But the key point being is that, again, there's going to be a government shutdown very likely in the next 24 hours. And what that's likely to do is to cause the DXY to finally break down. And if history repeats, then we're going to see basically some really, really positive price action out of stocks and out of crypto the moment the DXY starts falling as a result of this government shutdown, which again should start, I think, around midnight, if we want to be exact, midnight on Tuesday. So basically, 12 a.m. or whatever, or 12 a.m. October 1st. Anyway, you get what I'm saying. Just this is the main thing to watch this week, in my opinion. All the other stuff around, like, CME gap, that's all secondary to this. So just keep this in mind. And the moment you see government shutdown, and especially watching the DXY, just see what the DXY does. That will basically tell you everything you need to know. And if you want even more concrete evidence of that, guys, the reason, I would say the main reason why we've seen kind of this bounce in crypto overnight is precisely because we saw the DXY fall here when the Asian markets opened. The DXY fell, and it looks like crypto kind of front ran that a bit, and that's this whole reason why you're seeing a bounce now. And of course, that was the reason why we saw a second wave of liquidations lower late last week. That wave of liquidations was caused by strong economic data, which caused this spike in the DXY, which basically caused everything to fall, whether it was crypto or stocks. So that's how much of an impact the DXY is having right now, which is why this is the main indicator you need to be watching this week. And again, when this government shutdown, which seems very likely, if that starts, and when it starts, then expect to see the DXY just completely collapsing lower, and to see crypto and stocks and everything rallying. Anyways, guys, if you are enjoying the video so far, then do check out the description here. Just click on that more button, and then click this first link where it says BitGet up to 50,000 USDT deposit bonus. Just click that link. It'll take you to a page that looks like this, and that's where you'll see like all the details and everything you need to get these up to 50,000 USDT deposit bonus. Of course, you do have to do quite a bit, but even on a personal note, guys, I would say that BitGet is an awesome exchange. It's one I use personally, and we do have a partnership here, the Coin Bureau and BitGet. So do check it out. It will help you out. It'll help us out, and of course, it'll help out our partners. Anyways, guys, the one thing I'm sure that I'm going to already have a few comments down below is people are going to be saying, oh, but like if the government is shut down, what does that mean for like the altcoin ETF applications, which are supposed to be approved, sometime like basically in early to mid-October? Well, the short answer there, guys, is they probably would be delayed, which is actually pretty fascinating, because you would have this situation where basically theoretically, let's say there's a government shutdown, then you would have a crypto market rally, but the kind of catalysts that would cause the cycle top would kind of be potentially for these altcoins, whether it's like, I don't know, for Cardano or for Solana or whatever, these catalysts could be delayed, by like a few weeks or even a month, or, who knows how long the shutdown would last. But I guess that's a perfect segue into what's going on with Ethereum and select altcoins. If you look at Ethereum or Solana or SUI on the daily, you'll notice that they all fell, of course, below the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. And typically what happens, after that happens, is you see a rally back up to the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. And then we have to wait and see, okay, is there going to be continuation lower, or will there be a break higher? And as you guys might have guessed, I actually suspect that hinges very heavily on what happens with the government shutdown. And it's, kind of tricky to see, is like, is there going to be some kind of fake out where the markets get pushed lower before moving higher? Who knows? All I can say there is that if you want to get a sense of a target, whether it's for, Ethereum, Solana, SUI, which of course we'll go through here, then just look on the weekly chart. In my opinion, the lowest that ETH could fall here in the coming days is 3,500. That would be the weekly Bollinger Band moving average. I know a lot of people think that that ETH needs to retest this level, but I would argue that already happened back in June, so it's not really necessary at this stage. That's kind of like the interesting thing, is if you look at a lot of these other analysts are saying, is they're saying part of the reason why it needs to come down is because it needs to retest whatever moving average. But again, if you look back, it technically already happened. happen, at least in my opinion. So that's not, you don't necessarily need to see ETH falling to this level from a purely technical perspective. Similar story for Solana, fell below the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. Now it's probably going to rally back up to this level, so around 225. And then at that stage, we see, okay, is there going to be continuation higher, or is there going to be a rejection and it moves lower? And again, I do think that's going to depend on what happens with the government shutdown and the DXY. Zooming out to the weekly, we could see that the worst case scenario for Sol here would be to fall to around 185. And again, similarly speaking, you could make the case that this level was already tagged when Sol initially broke out back in June. I would even say is that, if you account for whatever volatility, variability, it already came close to tagging this level a couple of times. And, you could say that that basically almost counts. But some people, of course, would disagree or beg to differ. But the point being is that the worst case scenario for Solana this week would be to fall to around 185. And so long as Ethereum holds this weekly Bollinger Band moving average, so long as Solana holds this weekly Bollinger Band moving average, so long as Sui holds that weekly Bollinger Band moving average, so long as others, which is also close to that level, so long as these larger cryptos and these indices all hold the weekly Bollinger Band moving average, this long-term uptrend that we've seen since the spring is intact, and that means that we are going to get a cycle top in the coming weeks, just for anyone who's wondering. So moving on now, of course, to Sui, same idea on the daily. Sui's probably going to rally back up to the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. Again, this is completely normal from a technical perspective. After you get a key break below, you get a break below a key level, it's normal for prices to rally back up to that level, and then you see, okay, is there going to be continuation higher, or is there going to be continuation lower? Of course, you guys will know already my bias is that there's going to be continuation higher, especially because the government shutdown looks likely, and that's probably going to boost everything because of the DXY falling. But on the off chance that we do see Sui fall lower, this is where things get a little bit scary, because in Sui's case, it's already technically below the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, in which case you could say, like the worst case scenario here would be for Sui to fall to the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly around $2.4, which is by no means my base case. I don't think that's going to happen. But you always want to be prepared, let's say, for the worst possible outcome in case there is some kind of bearish catalyst. Who knows? Like, there's been rumblings that there's like some meeting of military officials in the US, and if they make some like war declaration or something and then everything crashes, or the DXY spikes on that news, right? Something like that. Who knows, guys? It's going to be a really crazy couple of days, I think, regardless. But again, the main thing to watch is this government shutdown and the impact that's going to have on the DXY. The moment you see the DXY falling, don't be surprised when you check, the Bitcoin chart or whatever crypto chart, and you just see prices starting to rally. So yeah, keep that in mind, and let's see how the next 48 hours play out. If you made it this far and you did find that information helpful, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, bang that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.